water. Without it, life as we know it would cease to exist. No one understands this better than those who live in the desert. Southern Nevada's water supply originates in the Rocky Mountains. Snowmelt drains into the mighty Colorado River, which winds its way through the southwest states to Mexico. Along its course, a series of dams and reservoirs manage the river's flow, delivering water for nearly 35 million people and more than 5 million acres of irrigated cropland. Many communities are dependent upon the life-giving waters of the Colorado River, but none more so than the city of Las Vegas.
Las Vegas is located in the Mojave Desert. Without a reliable water supply, Las Vegas simply can't exist, so there's nothing more important than being able to guarantee that.
Nearly 90% of the Las Vegas water supply comes from Lake Mead Reservoir, fed by the Colorado River. But Lake Mead's water level has been dropping, putting Southern Nevada's water system at risk.
Since 1999, the Rocky Mountains has been going through a very severe drought. We've always known that droughts are part of the natural cycle. What's most concerning about the current situation is that we're seeing a natural drought combined with the beginning of climate change.
The lake is now at less than 50% of its capacity, the lowest level since the reservoir first filled in the 1930s. The low water levels of the lake threaten critical infrastructure used to access and deliver water to Southern Nevada.
If the lake continues to drop, our upper two intakes will no longer be able to pull water. So in the face of these declining reservoir elevations, we're constructing a third intake into Lake Mead in order to access water from the coldest, deepest part of the lake.
With the drought continuing unabated, construction of the third intake is a race against time.
I feel pretty honored to be down here, you know. It's not easy work, you know, but by the end of the day, you feel like you've accomplished something, and you know, a little sweat never hurt nobody.
Intake number 3 will draw water near the bottom of the lake. Its construction will be one of the most challenging tunneling projects ever attempted. To build it will require excavating a shaft more than 600 feet deep. A tunnel boring machine will be lowered to the bottom of the shaft and excavate a route 3 miles long under the lake. The intake structure will be built suspended from a barge near shore, then tugged out on the lake, lowered into a pit, and secured with concrete. Finally, the tunnel boring machine will connect with the intake structure, allowing the lake water to flow through tunnels and pumping stations to reach the water treatment facilities. Each phase of the project is a daunting challenge, made all the more difficult by the intense pressure working so deep underground and below Lake Mead. The tunnel boring machine will face up to 15 atmospheres of water pressure, higher than any previous tunneling project has ever encountered. The geology of the area poses another great challenge. Unstable rock conditions riddled with faults act as conduits for water to travel into work areas.
This concrete, this tremi-concrete,
To overcome the obstacles of the harsh environment, it will take ingenuity and creative solutions. But it is the perseverance of crews working day and night over the course of 7 years that will lead the team to success. Working underground is dark, dirty, and wet. It takes an exceptional mindset to do this work.
I like this kind of job. I love being underground. Drilling and shooting dynamite, TBMs. I like it.
To excavate the shaft, workers apply a drill, blast, and muck technique. The first step is to drill long holes into the rock face. Workers then insert dynamite into the holes. After the dynamite charges detonate, the crews muck out the rock debris and load it into buckets for removal to the surface. Bucket by bucket, the workers slowly make their way deeper into the earth. Each bucket holds 8 cubic yards of rock and weighs 35,000 pounds when loaded. Working day and night, it takes over a year to reach the full depth over 600 feet below ground. At the bottom, workers excavate a large chamber and starter tunnel, which makes room for the incoming tunnel boring machine. Then, on June 28, 2010, the workers get a shock.
You know, it was like 5 of us down here, you know, working on the ground. And I seen the water changing color. That's what I knew something was gonna happen. You know, so I called those guys on the top. I had that basket ready.
A torrent of mud, gravel, and water surged into the work area.
I'm a little bit scared. Well, you know, I won't deny it. You know, everybody was scared. You know, but thank God we got my guys out. Everybody's safe. That's what mattered.
Over the next 4 days, water and approximately 6,600 cubic yards of mud and gravel flowed into the starter tunnel, bearing equipment and bringing the project to a standstill.
I personally have never seen anything like this myself.
Engineers launched studies to investigate and identified a series of near vertical faults that channeled the material into the work site.
This just goes to show that despite your best efforts and the best information you have on hand, that things that are underground are almost impossible to completely predict. And Mother Nature is a powerful entity, and sometimes she wins.
The inflows are a major setback. Crews spend the next year recovering and pursuing a new route for the tunnel that skirts the problematic fault zone. Meanwhile, crews excavate another tunnel to join the shaft to the existing tunnels and pumping stations that convey water to the treatment facilities. On the surface, the German-made tunnel boring machine is assembled.
This machine is named Kokopelli, which is a southwestern Indian spirit, or god, if you will.
Kokopelli is a technologically advanced and robust piece of machinery designed specifically for the conditions of this drive.
Normally a tail shield could be as little as 1 inch thick. This one happens to be 3 inches thick just because it's got to be able to withstand that pressure. And that goes throughout the machine. All the steel structure of the machine has to be built in order to take that pressure. So this machine weighs about 900 tons.
Lowering the TBM sections down the shaft requires precise maneuvering.
The shaft is a 30-foot diameter and the TBM is 23.5, but if you look at it as a square from above, it's only got about 1 to 4 inches of clearance. So it'll take about 12 hours to descend to the bottom.
While underground crews prepare the TBM at the beginning of the route, marine crews are busy working at the intake site. 2 miles offshore, they are excavating a deep hole in the lake bed where the intake structure will be placed. Working out on the lake comes with its own set of trials.
Part of the challenges that we face is the weather, the high winds, which also create 3 to 4 foot seas when it's 30-mile-an-hour winds like it is today.
Marine crews have removed 14,000 cubic yards of overburden from the lake bed floor and are now blasting away the bedrock. Over the course of a year and a half, they will detonate 24,000 charges. Throughout the marine work, a remotely operated vehicle acts as the eyes of the crew working above. The ROV makes it possible to avoid dangerous deep water dives during the intake operations.
It's basically a camera platform that we can fly around and observe what's going on. It has a small manipulator on it that allows us to do a certain amount of operations with it.
Today, that comes in handy.
Okay, get ready to drop the charges.
Going to be checking the detonation cords and make sure that they're all connected, that nothing came loose while we were coming down. Whoops.
A detonation line of one of the charges has become caught on an edge of the transport frame. If the ROV can unhook it, the crew will save hours.
This should go pretty easy.
Mike, is it wrapped around it or just hung up on the little lip?
Okay, it should be clear. Let me creep up it a little bit.
You ready? Fire in the hole!
Every day, the hole underwater becomes a little deeper and wider. Off-site, crews are manufacturing the concrete ring segments that will be installed by the tunnel boring machine and serve as the final liner of the tunnel. The segments are manufactured to tight tolerances. They must vary in size by no more than 1.5 millimeters. The precise size of the segments is crucial to the performance of the tunnel, as the rings must fit together and create a watertight seal that is strong enough to withstand the intense hydrostatic pressure. In all, over 14,000 segments will be cast for this tunnel drive. "600 feet underground, the TBM Kokopelli has begun mining. The concrete ring segments will make up the tunnel liner, installed within the protective shield of the machine. When ground conditions are favorable, meaning the rock formation is cohesive and groundwater minimal, the machine will mine in open mode. The material is carried through the machine by a screw conveyor and deposited on a conveyor belt to transport it through the tunnel. When ground conditions are poor and groundwater is flowing at high volumes, the TBM can switch into a closed or slurry mode. In closed mode, bentonite slurry is pumped to the face of the machine, and the excavated material mixes with the slurry and is pumped back to the surface where the bentonite is extracted and reused. Every 6 feet, the TBM stops and crews work to install another concrete ring. The tunnel boring machine pushes off the newly completed ring to move itself forward, then excavation begins again.
Right now we're having problems with our water.
Dwayne West is one of 3 qualified operators of the TBM.
The hardest part of this job is watching everything all the time. I mean, you've constantly got to be watching your pressures on everything, your grout, your thrust cylinders, your articulation, your cutter head. Then you're looking at the VMT to make sure that you're staying on line and grade. So you're steering and making adjustments there. And when there's problems, trying to figure out the problems. Interpreting the pressures on your screens will tell you what the ground conditions are like outside. Sometimes it's very hard to interpret that information. Hello.
Even under ideal conditions, the TBM operator's job is stressful.
There's a restriction somewhere because we're flooding everything down here. It's blowing off.
And on this drive, conditions are proving to rarely be ideal.
Yep, people are working on it, Chris. It's been very difficult because of the pressures. It's the highest pressure machine's ever been at in the world to mine through the ground. Normal jobs I've been on before were anywhere from 3 to 6, 7 bar. We were encountering up to 13.8 bar. So it's definitely abnormally high.
We had to mine at average of 12.5 to 13 bar to 13.9 and 14 bar for a long stretch. All these mechanical parts and hydraulic parts and structure of the cutter head, they've never been tested at this kind of pressure, like in the field.
Due to poor ground conditions and high pressures, the team is unable to access the cutter head for routine maintenance, forcing the cutters to work much longer than they were designed for. Finally, the TBM enters better ground conditions, allowing for an inspection of the cutter head. Groundwater flows through at a rate of 4,000 gallons per minute. Working in these conditions requires heroic effort. The team makes a shocking discovery.
The center part of the cutter was completely destroyed. Some of the structure of the cutter head was banded and damaged from the overheating and the pushing. This machine pushed a lot.
Workers excavate a narrow niche to access the front of the machine, and welders are able to rebuild the cutter head. On the water, marine crews are building the intake structure, which the TBM will eventually bore into on the bottom of the lake. The structure is suspended in the water from a barge around its perimeter. Long cables attached to each corner and threaded through strand jacks will serve to lower the structure to the bottom of the lake. The intake structure is complete, and the marine crew gathers before dawn to prepare for a big day.
We're bringing the intake structure out today. It's 2 years worth of planning, 2 years worth of work, 2 years worth of digging a hole 60 feet deep at the bottom. It's a pretty significant thing.
Maritime tradition requires a dedication before the voyage begins.
If that bottle doesn't break, I have to go for a swim to reverse the bad luck.
I've got all the trajectory on it I can get on it, Chief.
The anchors are cut, and it's time to push off. At more than 90 feet tall and 1,400 tons, moving the structure in the lake presents quite a challenge. All eyes are on the weather.
The barge is a big sail, and the wind will push you off course. And if it pushes you off course, then you run a risk of running aground.
As the barge rounds the cove, the wind suddenly picks up, forcing the tugboats to operate at full power to stay on course. Despite the wind, the intake structure safely makes its way to meet up with the crane barge on the lake.
Great job on bringing this thing out. Wasn't exactly the best conditions, and y'all did a great job on it.
The intake structure begins its slow descent to the bottom of the lake. To secure the intake structure to the lakebed floor requires pouring 11,000 cubic yards of concrete at a depth of 350 feet. The logistics of such an undertaking require new techniques.
The project is unique in itself. It's never been done before anywhere in the world. It's at a depth that concrete has never been placed, not in a trimming system. We had to take everything in and put it into one system and then fix problems as they came along to make each phase work.
Engineers worked for 18 months to develop a method of delivery and a specific concrete mix designed for the unusual environment.
The concrete, it has to stay very fluid during the transportation, and getting it out to the placement barge with the ready mix trucks is very difficult because it takes around 2 hours to get it there. So after the 2 hours, the concrete has to be workable so that it will flow down the 350-foot Tremie pipe.
The pour itself is a marathon, running around the clock for 11 days straight. 3 barges loaded with concrete trucks rotate continuously from the shore to the site on the lake. As if the task was not challenging enough, Lake Mead throws in one more trial for the crew to overcome. 5 days into the pour, the wind picks up.
It's supposed to be 75 miles an hour. The tugs can't push the barges like that. It's too much weight. Today's gonna challenge us. All right, guys.
Crews wait out the worst of the storm, and the barges are soon back to work. Finally, the base of the intake structure is fully submerged in concrete. For the marine crews, their job is complete, and they depart knowing they've had a hand in something momentous.
Being a part of this job that's never been done before, so it's gonna be like the crowning moment in my career. That's kind of special to me. I like it.
After 3 years of tunneling, the TBM Kokopelli is approaching the end of her journey.
Took so long. We're right in the end now.
All right, good morning, guys. Right now we are halfway through push 24-25. When we hit ring 24-27 is when we should be pushing through the intake structure.
Very close, very close.
All right, guys, let's go. Let's do this.
The hole through has been a long time coming.
You know, thinking about this project, you know, the end seemed so far away. It never really seemed real.
The crew below advances the TBM at a cautious, slow pace.
We'll pull a couple up and lay them back up there so we can look at them.
Above and below ground, on land and from the water, all eyes are watching for signs. At the separation plant, pieces of fiberglass rebar prove that the TBM is boring through the soft eye of the intake structure.
I'm kind of waiting for this total force. That should drop down about 5,000 kilonewtons when we haul through. That's when we'll know.
A call comes in from the marine barge on the lake, where workers report seeing bubbles rise up through the water.
Did you get some more bubbles?
Almost there.
Almost there.
At last, there is no denying.
That's it right there.
The TBM has holed through into the intake structure.
Yes, sir. We're broke through. It's a done deal.
Yeah. Along the top, along the top. Good job, everybody, guys.
It's over.
It's over. It's over.
Finished.
After 6
Game
years,
over,
it's
man.
over.
Okay,
Game
then.
over.
It's over. Long time coming, but it's done.
Yeah, good job.
Overtime for everybody.
Very proud of what they've accomplished. After all the hard obstacles that we had on this job over the years, people that work together to get it up, to get it done. Because without them, we would go no place. Feels great. Feels real good.
all of the preparations that went into excavating the tunnel are now reversed.
All this structure will be cut out. The cylinders, the main bearing structure, everything will be for the outer ring of the shield. The outer ring of the shields will be welded together and it'll actually be part of the tunnel.
The TBM pieces, miles of pipe, utilities, and rail lines are hauled up the shaft. The tunnel is ready. To equalize the pressure from the lake, the tunnel is filled with water from the surface. There is just one last milestone left in the project. A temporary bulkhead in the intake riser is all that separates the lake from the new tunnel. Today, it's coming out.
So, you ready to bring her out? Let's do it. Hey, Mike, go ahead and come on up slow. You're about a quarter of the way out.
Roger, coming up.
She's clear, Mike. You're clean to the surface.
All right, Carrie. Today was a big milestone. Finally, after almost 7 years, we can call it complete.
This was a very difficult project. We've set the world record for mining at the highest pressure with a tunnel boring machine in the world to date. We encountered variable ground conditions, unstable ground, and very high pressures. So we had to really fight for every inch along the way. But it was really the workers, the contractors, engineers, everybody that's involved coming to work and bringing their best and putting their heads together and working through these challenges. That's why it was such a success.
Uncertainties of drought fueled by climate change will undoubtedly continue to challenge the arid Southwest. But by looking ahead and planning for the future, the Southern Nevada Water Authority is mitigating some of its impacts. For the people of Las Vegas, the years of hard work and ingenious construction of the third intake have secured a reliable delivery of water to their homes, the very lifeblood for a community in the desert.